Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for tuning in. Today I want to answer a question that I've gotten a lot, not only with this car, but the majority of the cars that I've owned over my lifetime. And that is, what do you do for work and how do I get one of these cars? Now, don't worry. This isn't one of those videos on, this is my secret to becoming a millionaire trading stocks, or these are my secrets on how to flip houses. I didn't do any of that. The majority of the cars I've owned over my life, I owned while working at either Olive Garden or Outback. Just to kind of take you through a list of the cars I've owned, I actually started off with a 1969 Camaro. I then moved into a 91 Miata. And if you want to know how and why that happened, go ahead and ask down below, I'll answer. I then had a 94 Miata, and then of course Fast and Furious came out and I wanted something with a turbo. And I ended up with a 97 Eclipse GSX. After that, I got an AP1 Honda S2000, and finally I got to my goal car, which was a Mark IV Toyota Supra Twin Turbo with a 6-speed. I ended up having to get rid of that car and ended up with a 2010 Camaro, followed by a 93 RX7, and somehow after that I became one of the first 50 to 100 people to bring in an 89 Nissan Skyline R32 GT-R. After that car, I went back to the Mark IV Supra. It was also a turbo 6-speed, and I sold that and finally picked up this car. So you can get some pretty good cars just following my steps. I was not born into money. I didn't come from a rich family. And like I said, I got the majority of my cars while working at restaurants. The first thing I'm going to tell you on your journey to getting to your dream car is learn how to be your own wrench. Learn to work on a car. If that's something that you're just not willing to do and you just have no desire to even start, I recommend you just stop now. Because not only are you going to need it to kind of save money for your supercar fund, but you're also going to need to be able to do that later on in the video. I'm going to have another step which is going to tie right back to being your own wrench. Now I know what you're thinking. I've never worked on a car, it's scary, and I don't know where to start. And for you, I'm going to tell you just start small. Do something easy, like an oil change. An oil change is only one bolt and the filter. It's something you can do yourself, and if you have a friend that's a car person, they can sit there and kind of watch you and make sure you're doing okay. Once you do that and you get comfortable, you can move on to something a little more complicated, like spark plugs. They're still easy, but just a tiny bit more complicated than doing an oil change. The cool thing about cars is once you get comfortable doing something on one car, you can pretty much do it on any car. An oil change is an oil change no matter what car. You know, doing the brakes is the same once you get used to it no matter what car. Granted, each platform may have interesting little things that make it slightly different. Like doing the spark plugs on the Supra, the Skyline, and the Eclipse were pretty much the same. Whereas this car, you have to take off the intake manifold to get to the spark plugs. So it's a little more complicated, but the philosophy is still going to be the same. The reason you're going to want to do this is to put things in perspective. Most garages are going to charge anywhere from $80 to $135 an hour. Nissan themselves wanted $4,300 to do the rear brakes on this car. It's ridiculous. Especially when I can go to a place like Speed by Design, get a set of rotors and pads for about $600 and do it myself in probably about half hour to an hour, just kind of depending. That would be a lot of money if I was saving up for another car that'd be pulled out of my dream car fund. The next thing you want to do is start up your car fund. For me, I was saving up for a Supra, so I always called it my Supra fund. Now the cool thing about step one is you can actually carry that one through this entire process. You don't have to become a master mechanic before you move to this step. By setting up this fund, what I would do is I would take money and I'd put it into this fund and I didn't touch it no matter what. Barring some emergency, once money went into my Supra fund, it stayed there. What I would do is I was working in a restaurant at the time and paychecks were pretty nominal because, after taxes on the tips, they really weren't much. So it wasn't a big deal for me to take anytime I got a paycheck, put it in my Supra fund, it stayed there. The other thing I do to kind of speed up the process is because of tips, if I made over a certain amount per night, I would take the excess, it went into my Supra fund, I didn't touch it. So that is the first major step. You create your dream car fund, you put money into it, and barring some sort of emergency, you don't touch it. The next thing you want to do is pay attention to what you spend your money on. A pack of smokes a day or a case of beer every other night adds up over time. And if those are more important to you than saving up for your car, then a legacy car or a supercar might not be in the future for you. What I used to do was when I first started working is I literally tracked every cent I spent just to see where it went. And I learned it's not those big purchases, you know, that you keep track of in your head, like, oh, I spent $100 on this or $300 on this. It's the little expenses that really eat you alive. You know, it's the $5 here, the $12 there, the $20 here that really start to add up and you don't realize it. So I recommend, if you haven't done this before, pick up a little ledger or a spiral bound notebook and literally keep track of everything you spend for the next 3 months, and it'll really let you know where your money's actually going. By figuring that out, you'll be able to determine what it is you really want and need, more or less than having your dream car. The next thing I'm going to tell you to do is be patient. I know you think that probably kind of figures when saving up to your dream car. It's probably not a cheap car. You're going to have to be patient to get there. But I'm also going to tell you to be patient once you hit that monetary goal. Make sure you go out there and check to see what cars are out there and what it is you really want. Set up in your mind what it is that you're willing to compromise on and what it is you're not willing to compromise on. For example, when I picked up my Supra before I picked up this R35, I set it in my head that I only wanted to spend a certain amount. It had to be a twin turbo and it had to have a 6-speed, and it could not have already been converted to a single turbo. There's not a lot of those out there, and it took me 8 months to actually find one. When I was shopping for the R35, it actually took me 6 months because I wanted a car that would pass California emissions straight up, and there's not a lot of them out there that haven't already been upgraded to full bolt-on. So finding one that was relatively stock was really hard. I had set myself a budget about $60,000, which I thought was pretty fair, and I really, really wanted the blue one. As you can see, I didn't get the blue one. So the color I was willing to compromise on, but not the fact that it was nearly stock and would pass California emissions. The next step I'm going to tell you is probably going to be the most controversial of this entire video, and that is find a rough car. Now I know there's going to be those of you who are going to be commenting and basically faming me saying, oh, if you can't afford to pick up the right car, you shouldn't get one at all. That's not true. This goes back to step one that I talked about earlier, which is learning how to be your own wrench. Now, I'm not talking about finding a car that's got engine issues or electrical issues, because by the time you get that all worked out, you're going to be so frustrated with the car, it's going to be a horrible experience, you're going to end up hating it. I'm talking about finding a rough car. Maybe find one that's got a dent in the rear quarter panel, or maybe the paint is oxidized on the roof and hood. Or in my case, with this particular one, if you've seen my video where I do the walk around of the GT-R, it actually has bad paint on the front bumper. It looks like someone hit it with a sandblaster because it was a Texas car. To me, those are not detractors because I actually like working on my own car. It makes me feel like I own the car. You know, it's not like I just popped the hood and I'm like, oh yeah, I took it to a shop and they installed all that for me and look how fast it is. It's like, no, I did that. I literally took that off, I installed it myself. It gives me a sense of pride and ownership. So having a rough car is not a bad thing. I tell most people when I pick up a rough car, it's usually a 5-year project because I'm picking up the car, realizing I'm going to sink probably about another 5 to 10 grand into it, but it's not 5 to 10 grand I need right then. It's modifications I can make over time. Like I said, you're not finding a car that has mechanical issues, it's just a little rough. To put things in perspective, when I picked up my last Supra, the red one, it had a dent in the rear fender, the paint was oxidized on the target top, and the seats were absolutely shot, and the carpet needed to be cleaned in a bad way. Because of those things, it drove the cost of the car down when I initially bought it. But over the 3 to 5 years that you own the car, you know, you invest in cleaning the carpet, or you drop in a set of Sparcos, or you have the car repainted. By the time I've actually had all these rough cars finished, which like I said, usually takes 3 to 5 years, I've sold all of them for a profit, which is why I've been managing to get better and better cars as I go along. So like I said, pick up a rough car. The last thing I'm going to tell you is your first car is not going to be your dream car. As you notice with my list, I didn't go right from the Miata to the Supra. I ended up going from a Miata to another Miata to an Eclipse to an S2000 and then finally the Supra. It's okay to do this because if you notice, every time I changed cars, I moved into a better car and got me closer and closer to that Supra feel. Are you gonna lose some of your fun by doing this? Yes, you might lose some money when you pick up a new car because of depreciation, but you're still moving towards that overall goal because you're still sinking money into your dream car fund. The other cool thing about getting multiple cars along the way is you're gonna continue to learn how to work on cars. You're gonna be turning wrenches on all these different platforms, and you're gonna become a stronger mechanic for it. So when you do get your dream car, you're ready for it. And there it is. That is the process I used that took me all the way from a 91 Miata to my dream car of the Mark IV Supra and beyond. I hope you found it informative, and I hope it helps you on your journey to getting to your dream car. If you like this video, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button to let me know. It does help my channel out a lot. If you want to see more GT-R content in the future, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. You can also follow me on all forms of social media, which include Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and I'll leave links to those in the description down below. If you have any questions, or you feel there's anything I've missed, or you completely disagree with everything I said, go ahead and post in the comments down below. I will respond to you. I thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all out on the road.